The early morning mist clings to the marshy fields south of Hexham as the sun begins its ascent on the 15th of May, 1464. This is the setting for the clinical and decisive Battle of Hexham. Across the shallow, fast-flowing stream known as the Devil's Water, the banners of the House of York snap in the cool breeze atop a gentle rise. Below, a few hundred Lancastrian soldiers, weary, underfed, and hastily arrayed at Linnell's Bridge, face their certain doom. They are the final remnants of a dying cause, pinned between a rising enemy and a lethal landscape. Lord John Neville, the Marquis of Montagu, observes the valley from his saddle, his eyes fixed on the disorganized enemy camp. He has spent the night driving his army through the darkness, executing a grueling forced march to spring a tactical trap before the Lancastrians can retreat. The quiet of the dawn is deceptive. It is the silence of a predator moments before the strike. In minutes, Montagu will give the order that clinically destroys the last organized Lancastrian army in the north. The road to this confrontation was paved with years of dynastic bloodshed. Since the Yorkist triumph at Towton in 1461, the northern marches had remained a volatile landscape of resistance, fueled by the House of Percy and the desperate hope of a Lancastrian restoration. By early 1464, however, the geopolitical tide had shifted. King Edward IV successfully neutralized Scottish support through a strategic peace treaty, leaving the remaining Lancastrian rebels isolated in the rugged marches of Northumberland, deprived of their traditional border sanctuary. At the heart of this resistance stood Henry Beaufort, the Duke of Somerset, a commander driven by a singular, burning desire for vengeance for his father's death at St. Albans. Somerset was the hope of the Lancastrian party, a veteran soldier who had recently defected back to the Red Rose. He gathered a small force of veteran knights and northern gentry, accepting the extreme risks of a localized rebellion. His commitment was fatalistic. He knew that if he fell into Yorkist hands again, mercy would be non-existent. Opposing him was John Neville, Lord Montagu, a rising power whose career was built on the aggressive displacement of the Percy family. Following a victory at Hedgeley Moor only weeks earlier, Montagu recognized that the rebellion would not be extinguished until Somerset's core force was neutralized. While the main royal army was still far to the south, Montagu decided to take the offensive. He utilized Newcastle as a logistical hub, gathering 3,000 to 4,000 seasoned troops to deliver a decisive, high-tempo blow. Montagu's strategy relied on speed and total surprise. On the night of the 12th of May, the Yorkist force began a rapid advance along the south bank of the River Tyne, moving thousands of men, cavalry, archers, and heavy infantry over 20 miles in such limited time required exceptional discipline and intimate knowledge of the terrain. This maneuver was designed to bypass Somerset's outer scouting screens and reach the Lancastrian camp before they could transition from a marching column into a defensive formation. The tactical significance of the Yorkist route cannot be overstated. By crossing the Tyne at Bywell or Corbridge, Montagu successfully positioned his army to attack Hexham from the south and east. This maneuver effectively blocked the Lancastrians' only viable route of escape toward the Scottish border. Somerset, despite being warned by his own scouts of the Yorkist approach, found himself caught in a state of tactical transition. He had little time to prepare his men for the scale and speed of the incoming assault. As the sun breaks over the horizon on the morning of the 15th, the Yorkist soldiers interpret the clear light as a divine endorsement of their cause. In the medieval mind, the weather is a messenger of God's will, and the stillness of the air suggests a day of judgment. Banners featuring the falcon and fetterlock are raised high as the Yorkist archers nock their first arrows. The morale of Montagu's men is electric, fueled by the sight of an enemy trapped in the valley below. Somerset has selected a position at Linnell's Meadow, a compact patch of ground near the bridge. He arrays his 500 men into 3 detachments, hoping to utilize the bridge as a choke point to delay the Yorkist advance. However, the ground he has chosen is a tactical cul-de-sac. To the north and west lies the dense timber of West Dipton Wood, while the rising ground of Swallowship Hill to the east provides the Yorkists with a significant terrain advantage and gravity-assisted momentum. The most lethal feature of the battlefield is the Devil's Water itself. This fast-flowing stream sits in a deep, steep-sided cutting directly behind the Lancastrian ranks. By deploying his men with their backs to the water, Somerset has violated a fundamental principle of tactical withdrawal. There is no room for a disciplined retreat. Any backward movement will force his men into the freezing current and the muddy, near-vertical banks. The meadow has become a cage, and the Yorkists are about to close the door. The action begins with a thunderous charge. The Yorkist vanguard surges down the slopes of Swallowship Hill, their momentum magnified by the steep descent. A hail of arrows whistles through the air, targeting the gaps in the Lancastrian armor. Montagu leads from the center, his infantry moving in a coordinated block that prevents the Lancastrians from finding any room to maneuver. The suddenness of the attack creates immediate confusion among Somerset's troops, who are still struggling to lock their shields and form lines. The turning point of the battle occurs almost immediately upon contact. The right detachment of the Lancastrian army, commanded by Lord Roos, suffers a catastrophic collapse of nerve. Upon seeing the sheer weight of the Yorkist charge, Roos and his men turn and flee across the Devil's Water before a single blow is struck in their sector. This desertion is the mechanism of the army's collapse, as it exposes Somerset's center and left flank, leaving the remaining defenders completely hemmed in by the river. Montagu's veterans exploit the gap with clinical precision. They identify a single opening in the hedges at the east end of the meadow and pour through it like a rising tide. The Lancastrian center, now flanked and outnumbered, is pushed back by the sheer physical weight of the Yorkist billmen. The combat is brief but intensely localized. Without the ability to maneuver or reform, the Lancastrian knights find themselves fighting for their lives in a shrinking space, their formations dissolving into a series of desperate struggles. The sensory experience of the meadow is one of absolute chaos. The clash of steel on steel and the frantic splashing of men in the stream drown out the commands of the officers. The ground, churned into thick mud by the movement of horses and hundreds of boots, makes any attempt at a stand nearly impossible. The Yorkist infantry presses home the advantage, their bills and axes finding the vulnerable joints in plate armor. The Lancastrians realize too late that the river at their backs is a death trap. Panic takes hold as the Lancastrian line disintegrates. Men attempt to wade through the Devil's Water, but the current is deceptively strong and the banks are slick with mud. For a man-at-arms in heavy plate, the stream is an insurmountable barrier. Many are crushed in the press or drown as they are pushed into the deep water by those behind them. The Yorkist archers continue to rain shafts into the clusters of fugitives, turning the river crossing into a scene of significant slaughter. Those who manage to cross the water find no respite in West Dipton Wood. Montagu's light infantry and archers have already anticipated the flight and move to surround the timber. The Lancastrian survivors are hunted through the shadows, forced into small pockets of resistance that are quickly overwhelmed. The speed of the victory is staggering. In approximately 30 minutes, the organized resistance of the Red Rose has been shattered. The meadow is strewn with discarded weapons and the banners of defeated lords. In the frantic aftermath, Yorkist soldiers scour the woods and nearby buildings for high-value prisoners. Somerset himself, unhorsed and badly wounded, is discovered hiding in a cottage or barn nearby. His capture is a trophy of immense political value. Unlike the common soldiers, the Duke is taken alive, but his fate is already sealed by the new, ruthless rules of Yorkist engagement. The capture signals the end of Somerset's long quest for vengeance and the final defeat of his family's military legacy. A secondary but critical victory is secured as Yorkist scouts capture Sir William Taleboys. He is found hiding in a coal pit near Newcastle, carrying approximately 3,000 marks in gold and silver, the Lancastrian war chest. This financial blow is as devastating as the tactical defeat. Without these funds, the Lancastrians lose their capacity to pay mercenaries or secure the loyalty of wavering gentry. The gold is distributed among Montagu's soldiers, serving as a powerful boost to their morale and loyalty. The final act of the battle moves from the meadow to the Hexham marketplace. Acting with the delegated authority of King Edward, Montagu orders a judicial purge of the captured nobility. Somerset is beheaded that same day, followed by approximately 30 other knights and lords in the coming days. This decapitation of the Lancastrian leadership is a calculated move to ensure the Northern Rebellion cannot regroup. The tradition of ransoming noble prisoners is discarded in favor of total political finality. The consequences of Hexham define the next 5 years of English history. With the Northern Field Army destroyed and the leadership executed, King Henry VI is forced into a wandering exile before his eventual capture in a Lancashire wood. The Neville family's control of the north is formalized, and Edward IV enters a period of uncontested rule. The victory at Devil's Water was not just a brief skirmish, it was the clinical termination of an era, securing the Yorkist hold on the English crown. The Battle of Hexham reminds us that terrain and timing are often more decisive than raw numbers. It was a masterpiece of tactical encirclement that ended the first major phase of the Wars of the Roses. If you enjoyed this deep dive into medieval military strategy, please support the channel by liking this video. To ensure you never miss our next analysis of history's greatest battles, subscribe now using the QR code visible on your screen. Thank you for watching, and let us know in the comments which battle we should cover next.